Mtali wetu
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Zia and welcome to Conversations Podcast with the Soweto Muslim Association. Today we have a wonderful lady who's doing great work in the community, and she is an Alimah, also a sister to me and to so many others. Welcome, Sister Fatimah Khoele Mokaba.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan for such a warm welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and finally coming. I was supposed to be here last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, but alhamdulillah, it says that wa makaru Allah wallahu khairun makirin. You know, we plan, Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners.
Yes, Ameen. Thank you so much for being here. So before we get started with our conversations, I'm going to do a few rapid questions for you so that it gets us relaxed. So which country is your favorite to visit?
Oh, subhanallah, I'd love to go to Turkey. Besides obviously wanting to go to Saudi, I really would love to go to Turkey. I believe it's a beautiful country. And it also has so much of Islamic history in it. So I really would love to go.
It has beautiful mosques also. Yes. That would be lovely.
Inshallah.
Take me with you, like put me in your bag.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. What nicknames did your parents give to you when you were young?
I don't know of any, alhamdulillah.
So you didn't have any?
No.
Why?
I don't know. I didn't really have a nickname, alhamdulillah. I've always been Fatima or Tebang.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your favorite time of the day?
I'd say very early in the morning.
Same.
When the house is nice and quiet, everybody's sleeping. Just to have that 30 minutes just by myself. I love that.
Yeah, same. I actually prefer mornings than any other day. I'd rather start my days early than late.
Yeah,
and lastly, what cause is important to your heart?
I guess humanitarian. I'm very big on humanitarian. So that is something that actually, most of the time, I would say something that wakes me up in the morning and say, you know what, you need to go out there and do something. So yeah, that's something that I really would love.
Since we spoke about humanitarian, what led you on the path of being an Alimah and also going in that path of humanitarian cause?
What led me to be an Alimah? Yeah. I think from a young age, my parents embraced Islam when we were very, very young. So with that, they were very encouraging in terms of Deen itself. And seeing them so invested in Deen and wanting to send us to madrasa and stuff. They sent us to madrasa to Kimberley at the age of 10, but I didn't really like that because I was still young, and my sister also had to leave and go to Azadville thereafter, so I didn't want to be alone. But then I've always also wanted to be an Islamic teacher. So even in school, I remember in grade 4 when the English teacher asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to become an Alimah. I want to be an Islamic teacher and stuff like that. And amazingly, when I was in grade 11, I went up to my parents and I told them that, you know what, I think I'm ready. I want to become an Alimah. I want to go to madrasa. And my mother was like, what? Grade 11.
Grade 11, that is so young.
Yeah.
I'm only thinking about it now.
And besides, grade 11, you're going to grade 12 and you're leaving that for, So I said, no, this is what I want. So my mother told me, whatever decision you make, we'll support you with that. And alhamdulillah,
Look at you now.
Yes, like I'm so shocked. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Okay, as a mother and a leader in the community, how do you balance your personal life as well as your professional life with everything that you're doing also with your humanitarian work?
I think I get that question a lot. It would be that I think time management is very important.
Very.
And always being aware of what I'm doing throughout the day. So, like I said, in the mornings, I like to have that time just by myself.
Yeah.
So what I do is I try to separate everything in terms of, like, for example, if I had something at work that happened that didn't really settle well, I wouldn't bring it home. So it would be like, when we were teaching Alimah course at Madrasa in Islam, we always told the students that leave your problems outside of the gate and then you walk in.
Just like school.
Yes, and be
and
here.
work.
Yes, and then when you're done, you can simply pick it up if you want to and go with it. So I carry that everywhere I go.
Okay.
So when I go home, I don't let and allow whatever had happened throughout the day to actually affect my home.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
And same thing with whatever had happened at home, I don't allow it to affect me outside at work and stuff like that. And then the other way of managing it is getting my children and my family all involved in what I do. So especially with the humanitarian work, I get them involved. I let them go with me when we do, example, bread distributions, when we go for grocery distributions, I get them to come with me.
Okay.
And in that way, they also start loving the work. So they're just part of it, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
It's always good to involve your family in things like this, because from a young age you teach them how to do such things in community and to give and to provide support for people who need it. So alhamdulillah, you're doing that for them.
Alhamdulillah.
And could you provide us with the aims and visions of Al-Atfaal? Al-Atfaal, yeah. Al-Atfaal, yes.
So I can say initially when we started Atfaal was more about kids.
Okay.
It was more about that because I had children of my own whom actually it was just Farha, my first child. And at work, they were like, no, we can no longer be bringing children to madrasa.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, what do I do now? Like, because I'm used to carrying my child everywhere I go with me. And I was like, okay, we're going to send this child to a daycare center. So we sent the child to a daycare center. When we got there, it was 1 month later, the child is singing, Jeso, Jeso. And I was like, hey, subhanallah, Jeso, no ways, we're not doing this, And I was like, no, we need to open up something that will accommodate our children, will cater for our Muslim children. And that's when we started, basically. I spoke to my husband about it. He was supportive of it. And when he was supportive of it, he got a few of his other friends who knew all these, how to open up MPOs and whatever, and they worked on that. So, and alhamdulillah, we basically opened the ECD center because of that. And then alhamdulillah, from there, we had a good response from the Muslim community where the children would come, as well as non-Muslim community, because also we wanted, obviously, da'wah, but then also language barrier, because we find like most of our children from the location would be difficult for them to speak English. And then when you send them into schools where they actually speak English, or madrasas, which was, for me, that was a nightmare, because I had to send some children to madrasa, and when they got there, they got rejected because of language. Yeah, so for me, that was that. And in terms of humanitarian work, it's more also when it came into the ECD itself, and then you started seeing the challenges the people around us actually had. Like one specific would be like our elderly people would, when you're just walking into the driveway, and then somebody would be like, an old woman would be like, oh, and then we're like, huh? Okay, what do you need, mama? Hey, it's so difficult. We don't have food in the house. We don't know what to do. My grandchildren, they take my SASA cards and stuff like that.
That's so terrible.
It's so bad. And then I would be like, okay, fine, we'll take whatever we had in the house, put together, and give to the granny. And then like that, it was as if they would tell each other. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
no,
it was
they
like
definitely
that.
probably do.
And then it was like that. Then you'll find sometimes when you're going towards the taxis, and then you find somebody stopping you and like, oh, Mtanam, it's so difficult and whatever. And I say, okay, fine. Right now, I'm a bit late, but you can go home. There's somebody there. Get there, and then you must just tell them that I send you, and I'll call and say, okay, fine.
Someone's coming.
And then that, so from there, it grew from that. So even the first granny would be, whenever she was sick, whenever she needed anything, we were there, took her to hospitals, doctors, and things like that. And knowing that her family is even so absent from that.
That's
so
sad.
Yeah, and knowing that in Guatemala itself, most of the people that live there are old people. So we had to do something about that. So, when COVID came, that's where more of it happened. And alhamdulillah, Allah is amazing, because when you just made a call, I remember one day I made a call to one of the organizations, and I was like, guys, I need help. during COVID. They're like, okay, no worry, Apa Fatima, how many hampers do you need?
Alhamdulillah.
And I was like, okay, alhamdulillah. And at that time I was so shy, so I just said 50 hampers.
Oh.
And believe you me, 50
probably
hampers
sent
were
a
not
lot.
enough. They were not enough because so many people came.
Obviously during COVID, it's
and
quite a lot of
it
people.
affected so many. But then alhamdulillah, that went a long way because then slowly calling that organization, asking that person, and people were so welcoming to actually assist. And alhamdulillah, it grew from there.
As we were talking about challenges with the elderly, what challenges do you face with the young people and victims of GBV?
So with the young people, it's exactly the same thing. Like, with babies, let's start there. With babies, the challenges would be the parents.
The parents, yeah.
Either it's a child head at home or it's a home where it's an elderly head at home where you have the grannies, but there's no mother and father of that child.
It's always like that,
Exactly.
especially in the location. It's
which
so
is
sad.
so horrible, And then you would find that some of the parents are there, but they are facing such problems where they can't actually provide for their own children. So even if we wanted fees were like, if we're saying 30-50, somebody will tell you that that's so expensive, I can't afford.
Yeah, true.
And then some of them you say, okay, even if you give me 200 rand, it will still go
whatever
a long
you
way.
can.
So that is actually one of the challenges because then you can't really charge a fee that would help the organization itself to actually run. And then other challenges would be maybe, which is one of the biggest one was where they would break into the daycare like crazy. All the time, like
that is so insane. You're trying to help the community and you are messing up what's helping the community.
Exactly. And you think that they would protect you from that, but it was not. Until I remember we decided, you know what, when the opportunity came for us to move to Heidelberg, and then my husband and I were like, let's move. Let's move, and hopefully, inshallah, everything else would come.
Yeah.
But it's still, so with GBV, it's exactly that. When now a person will call you up, I'm going through this and that, and you find a way to actually help this person here and counsel her and tell her, things are going to be fine. Ask Allah Ta'ala to make ease, but also equipping the person, don't just be at home, because most people who are faced with gender-based violence would be, I have nowhere to go. But the thing is, people need to always remember that before you got married, Allah provided for you, Allah did for you. After you got married, Allah did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Who said Allah won't do for you even after this divorce? It might start difficult, but you can actually do it. So, and also finding problems within that you can actually fix, because marriage is not all about just getting married and then divorcing when things don't go your way. Like my husband always say, what? Running away from rain. It's basically going into deep muds and all of that.
That's true.
Yeah. And then I would tell them that, don't just run. Try to fix what's the problem. And hopefully if it works out, alhamdulillah. If it doesn't work out, then also alhamdulillah. And hopefully things will be better. Try to find an activity to do, a business to start. Find ways. Don't come out just abruptly and you have no plan as well. So plan. Yeah.
I get that. So even with the victims of GBV, they have to stay in the marriages?
Unfortunately, sometimes you're just going to have to stay until you get your feet on the ground.
Okay, yes, I get that, until you get your feet on the ground running.
Yeah.
But it's just so hard.
It is.
It's just so hard living with a person who is doing that.
It is, because I think also what we normally overlook as people is the very same man who's doing all of these things. Sometimes some of them psychologically, they're not okay. They actually need that assistance where somebody can actually talk to them and tell them, things are going to be fine. You don't have to take out your anger on somebody else. Maybe they themselves need to go for marriage counseling, or maybe they themselves need to go and go for therapy, because therapy is taboo in our communities. We have to look at it. So they actually
but not so much now. Hey, I feel like now, I feel like it's one of the things that so many people, maybe with the younger generation, older, obviously, it's such a taboo thing. But with the younger people, they're trying so much to get their traumas out before they get themselves into relationships or like,
which is very important.
Because once you go into a relationship with your past traumas from when you were young, you're gonna take them to your marriage.
and to your marriage,
to your kids. Yeah. So it's
And
just
then it
like
affects- it's
an
just-
endless thing
Yeah.
that just goes on.
Yeah, so I think also what you're saying is very, very important because for before you get married, to do things
Yeah.
like that, where you would go for marriage counselings, you would go even for your own
For your
personal
own, yeah, for your own.
counselling.
Because sometimes you will be with someone or trying to get into a marriage with someone, but also you have things
Yes,
that you
exactly.
personally need to deal with before you get into a relationship with that person. Because yeah, very, very important. So what aims and values do you plan to impart, or lessons, let me say, what lessons and values do you plan to impart on the youth who are living in these current societal, life?
That is very, very important because I think one of the things is to teach our children emotional intelligence. Very, very important because if we don't teach them things like that, then you find them going into things like this, Yes, whatever happened at home, it shouldn't be something that now defines you, affects you everywhere you go, and it makes life so...
Unfortunately, it does.
Unfortunately, yes. But at the same time, I think if once you have emotional intelligence, you have a way and you understand who you are. You understand that, like I know with my daughter and my son, before they went to the new school, I sat down with them because they were coming from a Muslim school, and I sat down with them and I said, you know what, guys, you need to understand that you're a Muslim first. Before everything else, before the environment, before what is going on, you need to first understand that you're a Muslim first and everything else comes thereafter.
There's always a debate on social media about how Muslims, especially Black Muslims, how they always put Islam before being Black. No, like it's always a conversation where it's just like, why do Black Muslims, and it's not just Black Muslims, Muslims in general always put Islam before race or culture or whatever. And it's just like Christianity. You have to put God first before you put everything else. It comes after.
I was actually about to say exactly that even Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said something to the effect that we should love Allah and His Rasul first, and then we love our parents and everybody else.
Exactly.
Hence, you'd put your Islam first before everything, because if you don't do that, if you don't put Islam first, you're going to follow culture and do everything else that is not okay.
Yeah.
And then after that, you're going to think, okay, konje, I'm a Muslim.
Yes.
Which are the things that are happening. People, they have boyfriend and girlfriend. People drink and do, and then after that they remember,
I'm Muslim.
I'm Muslim, let me make tawbah.
Yeah.
So when we put Islam first, we are able to cut off all these other unnecessary things. Yeah, so...
Inshallah, we all live and learn to be better Muslims
Ameen,
and
inshallah.
do things that are right before we get other things involved, inshallah.
Yeah, I mean, with that, knowing that nobody's perfect.
No,
Hence,
obviously.
even Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said that كل بني آدم خطائين وخير خطائين توابين. All the children of Adam alayhi salam are sinners. But the best sinner is the one who makes tawbah.
Yes.
So with having that value and stuff like that, sometimes you'll slip.
Yeah.
Once you slip, go back and make tawbah and carry on with life. But like we said, we can't first be everything else and then we think Islam last. Yeah.
So how do you ensure community development when it comes to the elderly, the young people, and everybody else who is involved in the initiative that you're doing?
Also, with community development, so what happens is in my morning madrasa, it's an old age home, and we have children with disabilities, etc., etc. So with that, it's so amazing because working with those people and so closely to them every day on a daily basis. So I know Appa would give them things like we have skills where we do arts and culture.
Nice.
Arts and crafts, rather. We would have baking. So that keeps their mind away from so many other unnecessary things. So, and then we have, like in the mornings, they would have their yasin, they would go for salah and stuff like that. So with the elderly, the focus is more like on your ibadat, on getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and keeping occupied with other stuff, like I said, the art and culture, art and crafts and
Still culture,
baking.
arts and culture.
Exactly. So that actually makes it easy. And it's something that I wish that it could happen in many other communities.
Yeah, definitely.
Where our people can be, like how Sister Zaytuna also does at her center, where the elderly will come in, they would go for gymming, they would eat
that's so
there,
nice,
they
so
would do so many
lovely.
things there, you know. So things like that should happen in many other communities to
Inshallah it
accommodate our
will.
elderlies, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah it will, because
Ameen.
this is such a great initiative. And inshallah, a lot of many other people they take up what you guys are doing, see it in you to want to do what you are doing. Inshallah. And how has your faith and Islamic teachings influenced the humanitarian work that you do?
Yeah. With faith, subhanallah. So what influenced that is always one of my appas in Madrasa who is still there for so many years. She's been there since my sister and them's time, and she's there till now. Like I've finished Madrasa 16 years ago, and she is still there. And it's something that we carry around with us. She never used to really teach us every day in class, but it's the words that she says always. She used to say in Urdu. And she will say that khidmat se khuda milta hai. When you're making the service of the people, it gets you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and closer to Allah. So for me, that's something that I carry with me all the time, that once you serve the people, you get closer to Allah because they make dua for you. And when I say they make dua for you, they really make sincere dua for you. I remember other people, when you just walk in and you give them the hamper, whatever the case might be, they're like, yeah, Allah, how did you know? How did you know? You know, and I'm like, Allah knows. Allah knew, and Allah is the one who sent me here. Yeah. And they're like, we had zero. We had zero, and then the person will start, and they will make dua for you. So that for me, it would be like, if I'm slacking maybe in my salahs, in my Quran, in any other thing, at least hopefully this is something that will uplift me and something that will get me into Jannah, hopefully. Inshallah. By means of the people's du'as, hopefully that will get me there. And when Allah had asked me and I say, ya Allah, please, I tried, I know
my
maybe
deeds,
here,
please,
but
look at my deeds.
Yeah, something like that. So I hope it makes sense.
It does make sense, because helping others including speaking for myself, it's so fulfilling, and not in a sense of wanting a reward or to be pat on the back. It's just like, it's a nice, good feeling to help people who are less fortunate than you are, especially when you have like everything and you want for nothing. So being grateful is very, very important when you have things that others do not have, like simple things.
Yeah.
So being able to help others and being fulfilled in doing that, and also just being a service of Allah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
It's really amazing. I'm definitely interested in your work. Like, I've always wanted to do something like that, because I see so many people, and because I personally, I don't have the funding or finances, and I don't know where to go. It's always just like difficult to start something like that. But inshallah, one day.
Inshallah, it will.
We
all don't.
I will get into that. And
it starts simple. I always tell my kids that, guys, it starts so simple. Even the students, I tell them, it starts like, if you have 5 rand, give 2 rand, give 1 rand. It doesn't have to be something big.
No.
Just give whatever you can. So even my daughter will come home, hey, mommy, shame, this other child didn't have whatever.
It's so sad.
You give your slice of bread. You're not going to die with
exactly
one
with
slice.
half slice or
exactly, So like that, I think it starts small, and then slowly, people will start maybe helping out and giving whatever 2 rand or whatever extra they also have in order to make things happen, inshallah. Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned finding peace and being content with the work that you do in helping others. What story can you remember that has fulfilled you in what you are doing, or something that have warmed your heart in what you have done and are doing?
Oh, yeah, Khuda. I think it's a lot. There's a lot.
Probably. Probably.
There's a lot, because Allah is so great. Allah is so amazing in every way. It's only until when we sit as people and recognize what Allah is actually doing for us, then it makes it easier. Like, it will be simple things like, you taking out clothes and you're giving out clothes. And then the next minute after you give out those clothes, somebody calls and like, oh, Abu Fatima, I have some clothes here. Please come fetch. And I'm like, okay, I just literally took them out now. And then somebody would do that. So it also, something like I remember a friend of ours was going for Umrah. And normally when people go for Umrah and Hajj, we greet, and people give whatever they have, just so. And then that day, I didn't have money. I had 100 rand, like literally. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to go there. I'm going to greet her and I'm going to give her this money here. And she must go there, inshallah, and make dua for me, And that day I got to her house and we greeted her. Everything was so nice. And then I gave her the money in her hand, And then, when I walked out of the house, I started my car and my phone went tweet, tweet. And when I looked at my phone, I got 1,000 rand. So I was so amazed. I'm like, this is what Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha had said, that when you give one, Allah gives you 10 back.
Yeah, and you gave it so sincerely without wanting anything back.
Yeah, it was so amazing. And there's many others like that. You're like, Ya Khuda, like, Ya Allah, I don't know how this happened, like you say, it was I was sincere with it. I don't know.
You were definitely sincere because you wouldn't have gotten the 1,000 rand.
It was so amazing. And then you're like, okay, wow, now I can go and do what? I can pour petrol.
Yep.
Let's start there, and then I can do other stuff, But alhamdulillah, Allah is amazing. Allah is amazing in so many ways.
He really is.
Yeah.
So what is your long-term goals for your organization? Where do you see it going, and what heights do you want to reach with it, and where do you want to reach? How far and wide?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to reach like I said, I would love other people to actually start doing, opening up organizations, basically like maybe old age homes and stuff like that.
Inshallah.
That would, inshallah, accommodate our elders. However, with regards to our organization itself, I remember my husband and I coming out and making this whole house plan and stuff like that in terms of how we want the classrooms to be and stuff. And he's like all for upstairs, like, he's like, yeah, upstairs must be all the madrasa classes, downstairs must be the Jamaat Khana, and then, the classes, the crash classes and stuff like that. So we had gone and made that whole thing. So first we had it on paper. Thereafter we went and we did the entire plan. Alhamdulillah. However, obviously, like you say, funds, subhanallah, it's not easy.
It's not.
When you have money, it's easy to just make things happen. So when you don't have enough funds and you're thinking, okay, I must also eat, and then I must still send children to school, I must still do whatever. So it's a bit hectic, but I pray and make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to make this dream to come true, inshallah, eventually, where we'll have that whole classrooms and we'll have our madrasa classes upstairs and we'll have, our Jamaat Khana.
Basically everything that you see, that you envision, inshallah.
And we're able to take out monies from there and support the community at large in whatever possible. I remember once we started this other da'wah movement where we asked Sheikh Milanzi from Don Park and his people to come to Guatemala, and we went house by house trying to invite the people into Islam. So things like that are things that are so close to my heart. Hopefully our Muslim people will, across all communities, will do things like that, where we will invite
Inshallah.
our very own brothers and sisters and coming into Islam, and we see Islam grow and our children not being shy and happy to be who they are as Muslims. Inshallah. Yeah.
Inshallah. And lastly, last question. Before we close, lastly, what advice would you give? We spoke about it briefly, but what advice would you give, especially women who want to start an initiative that is like yours?
Yeah, I think, like you said, we spoke about it. It would be for us starting small and finding people who are like-minded.
Yeah.
So we can't just...
That's always important. I feel like people do not put that into thought. Like-minded people. It's very important when you're going into something like this, with people who are not like you. They have to be like you because you will fight.
Yeah. No, but I think fighting is just, things like that are just there.
Normal.
It's how we deal with those kind of situations
Yeah.
that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because then if we're gonna be fighting and then after that there's no solution towards it, it's not gonna be okay. Like,
quit.
Yeah. So we shouldn't be. You see the word you just mentioned now. I quit. I literally spoke to my son about it yesterday because he had a bit of an issue at the school, and then he's like, "Hi, mommy, change my school."
No.
And I was like, "Excuse me, that's not how life works.
No.
Life is you go there, you stick to it, and you make a difference, and then after that you." Basically deal with the situation and you move on with your life.
Best
you can't
you
be
can.
quitting. Yes. So that's the thing. So we find people that are like-minded, people who might actually think like how we think and being supportive towards it, and getting others who has whatever, like, people that are capable of doing certain things, when some people are movers and shakers. You need people like that who are movers and shakers.
And others are just planners.
Yeah. You see, you get things and so you mustn't be with people like moaners and groaners. The ones that will tell you, it's not possible. You don't need people, negative people like that. But you need somebody who's gonna tell you, you got this, girl. You got this, it's gonna be okay. And even when you don't see it, Allah will make it
Boss
happen.
girl mentality is very important.
It is.
But inshallah, as we said, more people get into it, and it goes like wider and bigger, and
inshallah.
you get to achieve everything that you aim and envision for it. So it was lovely to have you. Jazakallah so much for gracing us with your beautiful presence and aura. Like, I was so nervous, but you made me feel so calm.
Yeah,
I was. But alhamdulillah for you coming here and having this conversation with us. Inshallah, we can do another talk some other time.
Inshallah. Jazakallah so much for having me. This was so, like I said, Allah is the one who plans, and wow.
The best of planners.
Yes.
And jazakallah to everybody who was watching this episode. I will see you in the next one. Allah